presently, but value can show up tomorrow, for example. So we're not in a hurry. Happy to have a leisurely lifestyle and wait for the game to come to us.
So in the first quarter of 2010, did you add any positions?
Yeah, actually we did find, in fact, there's one I'm buying right now, but I found two businesses, but they're anomalies. They were just businesses that had distress in them because of specific factors, and I think we'll do very well on both of them. They'll go nameless here. But no, I don't. I think, for example, in the fourth quarter of 2008 or the first quarter of 2009, you could have just thrown darts and done well. And that is definitely not the case today.
And finally, talking about mistakes, one of the things I guess an investor has to realize, they cannot control the universe. Delta Financial, you had done the homework, you fell with it, and then events took it away from you. Well,
Delta Financial was a full loss for the firm, for the fund. We lost 100% of our investment. It was a company that went bankrupt. And we've learned a lot of lessons from Delta. And one of the lessons was that Delta was in many ways a very highly levered company. And they were very dependent on a functioning securitization market. And when that market shut down, they were pretty much out of business. And they were caught flat-footed. And so there's a number of lessons I've obviously learned from Delta. It's easier to learn the lessons when you don't take the hits in your own portfolio. But when you take the hits in your own portfolio, those lessons stay with you for a long time.
So that gets to, you're a great fan of the Checklist Manifesto. And you now have checklists. What you said, one of the key things is mistakes in terms of a checklist, so you don't let your emotions get in the way of analyzing. What are some of the mistakes on your checklist now that you go through systematically, even if your gut says, this is great, I want to do it?
Yeah, so the checklist I have currently has about 80 items on it. And even though 80 sounds like a lot, it doesn't take a long time. It takes about 30 minutes to go through the checklist. What I do is when I'm studying a business, I go through my normal process of analyzing the business. When I'm fully done and I'm ready to pull the trigger, that's when I take the business to the checklist. And I run it against the 80 items. But what happens the first time when I run it is there might be 7 or 8 questions that I don't know the answer to, which is great. What that means is, listen, dummy, go find out the answer to the 8 questions first. So which means I have more work to do. So I go off again to find those answers. When I have those answers, I come back and run the checklist again. And any business that I look at is going to have some items on which the checklist raises red flags. But the good news is that you're looking in front of you with all your facilities at the range of things that could possibly cause a problem. And when you look at that list, you can also compare it to how those factors correlate with the rest of your portfolio. And at that point, you have a go, no-go point where you can say, I'm comfortable with this risk factors here. I'm comfortable with the prior probabilities, and I'll go ahead with it. Or you can say, I'm just going to take a pass. And one of the things that came out of running the checklist was I used to run a 10 by 10 portfolio, which is when I'd make a bet, it was typically 10% of assets. And after I incorporated the checklist and I started to see all the red flags, I changed my allocation. So the typical allocation now at Pabrai Funds is 5%. And we'll go as low as 2% if we're doing a basket bet. And once in a blue moon, we'll go up to 10%. In fact, I haven't done a 10% investment in a long time. And so the portfolio has become more names than it used to have. But since we started running the checklist, which is about 18 months ago, so far it's a 0 error rate. And in the last 18 months, it's probably been the most prolific period of making investments for Pabrai Funds. We made a huge number of investments, more than any other period, any other 18-month period in our history. So with more activity so far, and it's a very short period, we have a much lower error rate. I know in the future we will make errors, but I know those errors, the rate of errors will be much lower. And this is key. The thing is that Warren says, rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Okay, so the key to investing is downside protection. The upsides will take care of themselves. But you have to make sure that your losers are few and far between. And the checklist is very central to that.
Can you give a couple of the things that are on your 80 items?
Oh yeah, sure. There's the checklist was created looking at my mistakes and other investors' mistakes. So for example, there's questions like, can this business be decimated by low-cost competition from China or other low-cost countries? That's a checklist question. Another question is this a win-win business for the entire ecosystem? So for example, if there's some company doing high interest credit cards and they make a lot of money, that's not exactly helping society. So you might pass on that. Or if it's a liquor company or tobacco company, those can be great businesses, but in my book I would just pass on those. Or a gambling business and so on. So the checklist will kind of focus you more towards playing center court rather than going to the edge of the court. And there's a whole set of questions on leverage. For example, how much leverage, what are the covenants, is it recourse or non-recourse? There's a whole bunch of questions on management comp, on the interests of management, on just a whole on their historical track records and so on. So there's questions on unions, on collective bargaining. And all of these questions were not questions I created out of the blue. What I did is I looked at businesses where people had lost money. I looked at Dexter Shoes, where Warren Buffett lost money, and he lost it to low-cost Chinese competition. So that led to the question. And I looked at Court Furniture, which was the Charlie Munger investment. And that was an investment made at the peak of the dot-com boom, where they were doing a lot of office furniture rentals. And the question was, are you looking at normalized earnings, or are you looking at boom earnings? And so that question came from there. So the checklist questions, I think, are very robust because they're based on real-world arrows people have taken in the back.
Terrific. Monish, thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve.